Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's get back to Iraq, shall we? Another on the way, revealing the dollar amounts reached in Iraq within 2 weeks. So for you professional heist people, and you want to get bold, try to figure out how to jack this plane. A government source revealed the size of the dollar amounts imported from abroad through some government and private banks. The source told the news that according to the latest statistics provided by the Central Bank of Iraq, the amount of dollar imported to Iraq through some civil and government banks and within 2 weeks from now is estimated to be $255 million to meet the requests of customers of those banks from depositors of their accounts in dollars. He pointed out that a number of other requests are in its way from auditing and implementation of other amounts are expected to arrive within the next few days. The source pointed out that the above operation is carried out in light of the central banks allowing all Iraqi banks to import all types of currencies, including the US dollar, to meet the need of the customers of those banks from foreign currencies. To me, this is a really good kind of test run for Iraq to see how they manage not only dealing with the US dollar, but also those other countries in which they've been doing currency swaps with. My fingers are crossed for Iraq. I think they should be able to handle this. Hopefully the system can stand up as well, because we'd like to see them start adding other countries in addition to the ones they have. Launch of the third annual Scientific Conference on Economic Challenges and Reform in Iraq. So the Financial and Accounting Training Center announced today the holding of a third annual scientific conference. In a speech at the conference, the director of Financial Center said that the third annual scientific conference aims to move towards the digital economy and comes within the framework of the public financial reform in cooperation with several bodies, including university colleges and financial and government institutions. Yeah, this is their way of pushing everybody into the digital currency, the CBDC. So it's kind of hard to figure out how to deal with this mentally, because we know what their overall goal is and what they're trying to do. But at the same time, this also allows proper and needed reform in Iraq, a way to monitor what's going on with their money without people stealing it. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% foolproof, but it is a major step in reform. It says the conference comes in the context of a reform trend in the financial sector, noting that it includes restructuring the general budget, managing public money, improving the investment environment, and reforming the banking system with the aim of stimulating economic growth in Iraq, which this part right here is very catchy and interesting to me. Restructuring the general budget. Why would they have to restructure the general budget unless there's about to be some changes made? No, I don't want to get all crazy and make assumptions that it has something to do with the change in the exchange rate, but I do find this very interesting. Like I said, if they're going to ever change the exchange rate, they usually do it at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, so everybody could do what? Restructure their budgets for the year. Because you have companies and businesses that work within Iraq, they've already laid out what they're expecting to spend and gain during the year. But if you change the exchange rate, that changes the entire budget. You don't want to do it in the middle of the year. You want to do it at the beginning so that people can make the changes ahead of time, and it kind of gives them an idea how the year is going to go. So I do think that this is interesting. So some of you might end up being right. Hey, here's bragging rights for you guys. You can say, see, we said so and Pimpy didn't, and he was wrong, and we were right. We'll see. The conference focuses on main axes, including reform and digitalization of the tax system, development of the customs systems and border crossings, requirements for reform and public budget, management of public debt, public investment, and coordination between fiscal and monetary policy. Very interesting conference. I have to admit, my ears are perking just a little. What do you got going on over there, Iraq? The conference aims to evaluate the tax system and identify the obstacles facing the customs system and border crossings, and determine the requirements of the public investment framework and its role in development, in addition to highlighting the mechanisms to reduce the conflict between fiscal and monetary policies. Yeah, this is I'm not going to make any assumptions. Central bank non-oil deficit more than 80% and threatens the state's financial situation. Threatens the state's financial situation. This is why it's so important for the non-oil sector to get developed and get rocking and rolling, so they're not just relying on oil. So the Central Bank of Iraq, Al-Alaq, announced on Wednesday that the non-oil deficit in the state's resources is more than 80%, considering it is a number that threatens the financial situation of the state, while noting that the employment of information technology in state institutions has become necessary. Look, I get it. Spend money where it's necessary to develop and grow as a nation. Alaq said in a speech during the conference in the Ministry of Finance within the Financial and Accounting Training Center, followed by the Economy News, that the fourth revolution of Davos conference depends on the individual and the group, and to be close to the reality, what we are, no doubt we are far from the fourth revolution, and we are on the ebb of the third revolution. Yeah, you guys don't want to go down this path of the fourth industrial revolution. For those of you who are not paying attention to World Economic Forums, think that robots and humans should cross and become one. I'm not even kidding. This is what I was talking about. A lot of steps that Iraq has taken tend to be working in the direction of the NWO. So yeah, that's really discouraging to see. We are still seeking a way in digital wealth and in all fields, and we are still in the framework of simple digitalization, and drawing up steps and procedures is very necessary. Foreign state institutions of manifestation of corruption depends on digital technology by increasing electronic connectivity to reduce institutional confusion. That's what I'm talking about. The reason why they want to get a lot of this updated, people trained, is to try to use the digitalization to catch the criminals, what they're trying to do. See, that's where they're going to come at us, is that way. Oh, this is about catching the corruption. It's about being efficient. But what you're really doing is pushing this agenda forward, which I don't like. Alaq pointed out that the employment of information technology in the state institutions has become necessary, noting that the Council of the Ministry of Science and Technology was a measure that contradicts the possibility and development of technological side, which is an incorrect procedure. The government of the central bank stressed that the non-oil deficit number is more than 80% and it threatens the financial situation of the state, noting that the government cannot redistribute income within the existing instruments. Alaq pointed out that in the framework of stimulating electronic payments, the Central Bank of Iraq is the most benefiting from modern technology, pointing out that despite the availability of all means in the electronic payment mechanism, we are facing complementary environmental conditions, including increased demand for the dollar. Yeah, man, Anyways, like I was stating, they have to do something more about developing the non-oil sector in Iraq, and I know they're trying like hell to do it, but there's a great pressure for them to be much quicker. Economic reform in the Prime Minister's vision and government platform. So the Prime Minister, Al-Sudani, while answering the questions of those present in the program, Al-Sudani said that economic reform starts from financial and banking reform, and the confirmation that the economic vision of the government is based on a careful diagnosis of the obstacles and challenges of economic reform, which has not been achieved since 2003 because the banking and financial sector has not witnessed any real reform process for 2 decades, because without a healthy financial and banking sector, a healthy national economy cannot be built. Exactly. As I stated in another video, it was kept that way on purpose. This allowed the corrupt people to continue being corrupt without getting caught. Now that they're getting updated, it's easier to spot fraud when you see it, as well as corruption. I wanted to skip down here just a little bit, saying continuing the measures and using monetary policy applications to control the exchange rate and reduce the gap between the official price and the black market price, which began to narrow towards reaching the target and balanced exchange rate. Getting there, but not there yet, referring to the Prime Minister's assertion that the government cannot accept that the official exchange rate is equal to the black market rate. All this indicates that the many services provided by the banking system in the developed countries were not able to achieve their progress and economic growth. The strength in the banking sector has become a necessity for building a prosperous economy that adapts sound, sustainable development. The development of banking habits and awareness of importance of developing banking facilities in a way that secures building that national savings base and developing the financial resources necessary to build the economy has become one of the priorities of the decision makers. Notice it didn't say Iraqi government, it said decision makers. So you notice that what everybody is focusing on is the banking sector, because if you control the money, then you control the people. That's why there's such a huge emphasis on banking reform all over the world. They say we're monitoring it to make sure that there's no more terrorist groups being financed. Yeah, that's not the truth though. So this is interesting. Barzani discussed with the U.S. official the resolution of the controversial issues between Baghdad and Erbil. So the Prime Minister, Barzani, discussed on Wednesday with the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State for Political Affairs the controversial issue between Baghdad and Erbil and the need to resolve them in accordance with the constitutional rights. Said the presidency of the regional government said in a statement reported by the news that Barzani received a U.S. official and they had time to talk and they exchanged views on the latest developments in Iraq and the region and discussed ways to strengthen bilateral relations. She pointed out that the meeting focused on the need to resolve the contentious issues between Kurdistan region and the federal government, as we agreed on the importance of the federal government respecting the constitutional rights of the region and the need for Baghdad not to treat the citizens of Kurdistan as a second class, and we stressed the need to strengthen the foundations of the federal system and establish democratic principles and stabilize them in Iraq. They also addressed the importance of consolidating a cultural coexistence and religious freedom, as well as protection of human rights and the general components in Kurdistan. So I'd be lying if I didn't say that this was definitely interesting. I'm wondering about that conference they got going on with reform. Considering the time of the year it is, we know we're in the middle of elections, so there's a couple of things bumping up against one another. But the fact that they're talking about potential changes to the budget is something that's caught my attention. Anyways, that's it for now. Let me know what you think that means, and I'll get back at you later. I'm out.